Hello and welcome to the Down Under edition of Clash Miami review of race reviews with Billy and Sam. Today we are in Melbourne, but we are reviewing Miami, so that's kind of where our travel schedule is at. Do you want to tell me about Miami? Anything special? Are we doing race reviews / race stories?
Yeah, this is all. I mean, are we going to just talk about the whole trip?
We should.
I mean, so what happened with this trip? It was supposed to be a double. We were supposed to do Claremont and then Miami, and what happened was Claremont got canceled because tornadoes,
as it turns out.
I mean, those things go in a circle. We could have hit that thing just right, and maybe the bike would have been really fast, right?
Pulling you out, pushing you back. I love it.
Anyway, so that didn't work out. So that was kind of a bummer. But so Miami, Claremont was on Saturday, Miami on Sunday. So we ended up. I mean, we had to wait till the very last minute for Claremont, and we needed to get COVID tests to be able to come to Australia. So we didn't. I mean, we left Claremont at a reasonable hour, noon or 1 or something like that. Had our COVID test kind of halfway in between Miami and Claremont at like 4 or something like that, and then headed on down to Miami. So we didn't check in early. We didn't do any of the pre-race stuff. We checked in at race morning, 5:30.
Yes, so there is race morning check-in. You generally have to ask for it, but with Ironman, that's a big deal. With them, it was not. So
they had plenty of packets that I mean, a fair number of people were checking in early. In fact, they weren't recommending people check in on Sunday, but they didn't want you bringing your bike until Sunday because it was windy between Saturday night and Sunday morning. Yeah. So they had to move all of the bikes out of transition and into the NASCAR garages or whatever. So no issues checking in. I mean, we just went in, got our packet. With the packet, you got a backpack.
Yep.
Let's see what all we got here.
I feel like while he's doing that, also of note, for Claremont, the cancellation showed up on Facebook or through the Facebook group or the Facebook page at least an hour before the email came out. So this is the bag. It is a swimmer bag. Love it. It's fantastic. It is the same bag from Daytona. So, always like it when they change up the bags. There's no Miami, but as far as the bag is concerned, it's good. Also, the swim caps are silicone, like a light silicone. They're thin silicone. So it makes it better for swimming. For certain.
And then you got the t-shirt.
And the t-shirt.
Is there anything on the back?
No, it doesn't. It's the exact same. So it's blue for Miami. It was gray for Daytona. And Daytona, of course, they ran out of them, but said athlete on the back. And this one just has the Clash symbol.
Super soft cotton.
Yeah.
Not technical.
I have the same complaints. The shirt from last year was cotton also, but it was really cool.
Yeah.
It was, Miami themed and I don't know what to call that, like 80s colors, like bright, vibrant colors. So yeah, I just wish they'd work on the t-shirt design a little bit. But I'm sure there's lots behind the scenes that we're not seeing. So
into transition. Another thing to note too, the 2 days after the Miami race, they had a sale on entries.
Yes.
Half price.
Yeah. So 170, 225 for relay, 170 for individual. For a half, that's the cheapest half price.
I mean, Claremont might have been a little bit cheaper. Well, I mean, but so you're not getting as. I mean, the backpack's cool. The t-shirt's not as nice. You didn't get a hat. But I mean, it's half price.
It is.
So anyway, I mean, I guess keep an eye out for that.
Yes, absolutely. Their full price is $350 this year, and Ironman's is $425. So they're starting out at baseline cheaper than Ironman. They do not put on a cheaper race than Ironman. I don't know how to say it other than that from the athlete perspective.
The swag's a little bit different, but the race experience itself is not any cheaper for sure.
As I'd say.
As good or better.
Better than most Ironman, as good as any Ironman we've done. So yeah, we got transition is open again, or open bike rack, open bike racking. Kind of pays to be there early deal again.
Know that the closer that you get to the bike exit, the tighter more people want to be there. So the tighter the bike's going to be. They were limiting it to 6 per rack, which is good. It was you set up at your bike, so 6 per rack and setting up at your bike. I mean, really, that's about the max we like to see. We've seen 8 per rack. with setting up with your bike. But that's just really too tight. But 6 per rack, and all of the racks closest to the bike exit were full. I mean, we were on the aisle of the bike exit, but towards the other end, and our rack was not full. There were 3 or 4 bikes on it.
We had 5 bikes on it because somebody was not smart. But yeah, it was. The referee had come by and they were coming along and fixing it if people had messed up, or if somebody wanted to get into a 6 bike rack, or if there were 5 and they wanted in on that one. So we were watching the referees. So just be careful. It's the standard. If one's going this way, the other one needs to go that way. So please pay attention, or they'll move your stuff.
So on a 6 bike rack, 3 bikes are facing one way and 3 are facing the other. So if you put 4 one way, they were moving the one that was wrong.
So what else you got?
So I mean, transition the morning of. I mean, it was pretty relaxed. You set up at your bike. I mean, we got there at 5:30. The race didn't start till 7:15 or something like that. It was daylight savings time changed before, so you have to be aware of that. But I mean, realistically, they're going to start the race at daylight, so the daylight savings time doesn't really change anything for you as far as the amount of sleep you get the night before, because if there wasn't daylight savings time, they'd probably start at 6:15.
Yes.
So starting at 7:15, you do lose the hour of sleep, but you gain an hour on the when they start the race. So I mean, I can't think of anything else. I mean, T1, T2, same spot. Swim is a little ways away from transition. You kind of
swim is a long ass way away from transition.
It's not the furthest we've ever been, though. I mean, we've been like a quarter or half mile before, but
True.
It's a hike.
So Daytona is the premier Clash event. They're opening Watkins Glen this year. We won't be able to do that one, but Daytona's the deal. And you come out of the water in Daytona and you're on carpet from the water to your bike. And here you're on asphalt. They have a couple of, I don't know what to call it, maybe Jersey style barriers they have to get over. So you go over these hills and they have carpet for that, so you're not running on anything rough. But the race experience with Daytona is incredible, and it is just not as incredible here. So this is a good. I mean, we've run across grass and dirt and I don't know people to get to transition before, so this is fine. But I feel like we should hold them to the Daytona standard. Really, is what.
But they're doing the best they can, right? Where the pond is or the lake, whatever you call it, where you have to go over to. And what he's talking about is these walls. I mean, they're 3 or 4 foot walls, and they built ramps.
Yeah.
So you run up a ramp, over the wall, down the ramp, and you have to do that for 2 of them. And then you run into transition, but they couldn't put transition anywhere else.
No. I'm not debating the length. I'm saying I would have liked to have seen carpet from the to transition
all the way.
Yeah, that and I get it, because where you come in on the swim is also where you come in on the bike. So I don't know that. I mean,
they would have had to pull it up.
Yeah, and I don't know that that's possible. So I get. There's probably some things that I'm not accounting for, but I would have liked to see more. I mean, I know they've got 8 miles of carpet laying around somewhere. So, I mean, once again, I'm being nitpicky, but I consider this race, this series, to be among the top series in the world, and so that's the standard I feel like we should hold them to.
So the swim itself. You want to talk about the swim?
Swim, it's a 2-lap swim, and you're going clockwise. Is that right? Looking at it from we're going clockwise. This is it's a retention pond, but it has to be sprinkler fed. We've talked about this in the last time we reviewed this thing. It is very clear, amazingly clear water, given that it's fresh water and in a retention pond. So you can see the plants up underneath you. I did get a little bit, I swam into a little bit of plants that came in me. But it's mostly nice for being able to see the other athletes. Plenty of support, so you just do 2 loops and pop out. It's a fairly simple swim. Dad.
I mean, I guess that's my thing. Is the water is very clear, you have no excuse swimming over the top of someone else.
That's fair.
because you can see them.
Absolutely.
I got hit a few times, and one person hit me 3 times in a row, and I'm like, what are you doing? You see that I'm here. You felt that I'm here twice. So anyway, I think when we reviewed this last year, what I told you was, if you wanted to stay away from people, then you just follow the edge of the plant life, so that the way that the water comes in is pretty shallow, and then it drops way off. And so there's this kind of ledge. And if you just follow that ledge, you're outside of the buoys, but it's really easy to sight because you can just sight along the ledge and just kind of go around. At the big turns at each end of the lake, you can't do that. So you do have to keep an eye on the buoys, but on the sides, just follow that ledge, and you'll stay out of almost everyone's way. It makes it more pleasant swim experience. For me, if you're a top swimmer, I mean, you stay close to the buoys, and you're
If you're a top swimmer, you're not listening to this video anyways.
Yeah.
Don't worry about us. I was on my first loop. We started in the back. There were, I want to say, less than 500 people in this race.
Yeah, it seems like there was fewer people this year
It was
than there was last
definitely
year.
less people this year than last year. Last year might have been a COVID. Daytona pulled off in December, and then this was an early season race. So I think you had a lot of Latin America that was coming up, and it was not here this time. So that's very interesting.
All right, so you hop out. It's 2 loops on the swim. One thing to note on the second loop, there's this huge tall tower to your left. I'm not sure what it could have been, like race number tower. I don't know. But anyway, as you pass that tower on your left, go ahead and start looking for your exit. So that's the exit will be on the left, and it'll be in. You don't have to swim around the buoy or anything, so you can make a straight line towards it, but it has the arch, and there's a ramp that you go up and all of that. So that's after you pass that tower, start looking for the swim exit.
So we get out on the bike. You get to the bike.
Yeah, so you come in off the swim, you go over these ramps, you get into transition, and after transition, you hop on your bike. Was the bike exit and the bike entrance the same spot, or were they come in on opposite?
They came in on opposite because your in from the swim is the same spot as in on the bike. So bike out and run out are in the same spot.
So you get out there. It's a kind of a good ways before you can mount your bike. You have to go up under the tunnel and out, and then hop on your bike. And the bike was different this year.
They changed it up.
Same but different.
Yeah. So you biked along the road course where the run was.
Right.
And so that added a lot of turns.
So even when you got out of you had a few turns in there, and then you went outside of the stadium, and there were a fair number of turns. And you could tell exactly what they were doing was making the distance correct. But and there were a fair number of U-turns that you got in there.
So practice your U-turns before this race.
Then you got out on the main drag. It was a close course the whole way.
Yes.
Which was super nice. And tons of cones. The exact same cones they used in Daytona. So it kind of gave me a little PTSD there.
How you doing, man? I was just checking to make sure the other shoulder was okay.
Oh, okay, yeah. You got an extra lump on the shoulder. So anyway, close course. You go. It's after you do all of these little extra work. It's basically a balloon. It's just out and back, really. It's not even a balloon because last year you went out the string of the balloon. You did 2 loops around the balloon, and then you came back on the exact same string. This time you did a whole bunch of little extra stuff inside and right outside the stadium.
Yeah.
Then you went on the same string that you used last year to the same road that you went last year, except for instead of doing 2 loops on this road, you actually went further. And this was pretty cool because you actually went out to one of the Florida Keys.
Yeah, it feels like it should count as the Keys. We were on an island.
Yeah.
We were not attached to the peninsula.
Yeah, you went over a bridge, so it gave you last year, super flat.
Yeah.
Like there's probably 20 feet of elevation gain total. This year there was a fair amount more. I didn't even look at my watch. Did you pay attention to it?
I did not.
I mean, it can't be more than a couple hundred feet.
Yeah, because you're just going over that one bridge, but it's a bridge allowing sailboat traffic, so it's not a small
you go over
bridge.
it twice, and then there was another smaller bridge that you went over twice. And I don't know, that was kind of cool. I mean, it kind of changed up the course a little bit. You had the wind to deal with. It was a windy day.
We should discuss the wind.
Yeah, more windy than
There were
last
tornadoes in the middle of Florida the day before, so you should expect wind when that happens. But This was tailwind out, headwind home.
Yeah, and that's tough.
That's
tough.
always a little tough.
But you get out there, you turn around. So there ended up being 4 aid stations. There were really only 2 aid stations, but you passed each one since it was out and back. You passed each one of them twice. So
Yeah.
it ended up being 4 aid stations.
Still base. I didn't actually try it. Did you try it?
I never even saw the base.
Oh yeah, they had the base bottles.
Yeah, no, I didn't stop at any of those stations.
So yeah, they have the standard Ironman style water, like squeeze water bottle,
Yeah.
and then they had the base bottles. If you like the taste of asphalt. So yeah, just that's what it is on the course. I don't remember seeing. I didn't see any bananas or anything.
And this year it was not hot, which was nice.
No, the wind made it nice.
It was
For
a
heat.
little warmer last year. So I mean, I guess weather. There's nothing they can do about the weather.
No,
but that's
that's just FYI. So you prepare for wind, and be pleasantly surprised on the other end.
So, like I said, just out and back, you hit the aid stations, closed course. I mean, they even had the same deal as last year. They had all the driveways to all the businesses monitored by the police, so they
Dude,
were not allowing people out. It was really
The
nice.
entire police department of Homestead is once again out there. I assumed they were going to dial it back after last year because I'm assuming like 12 banks got robbed by the employees. I mean, there's no security for the rest of the community, but they did a phenomenal job. There was every single avenue had at least one cop and generally 2. For it to only have one cop, it had to be somebody's driveway. But yeah, I mean, as far as safety is concerned, it's top notch. When I look at that, I put it in the same. When we do these races outside of the U.S., generally other countries are fantastic about shutting down major roadways to allow us to
I mean, we've had
have the whole
entire
thing.
interstates shut
Yeah.
down before.
And so that's the standard for me, and it's in the U.S. that is not the standard. Ironman will have a closed course. Smaller races will not have closed courses.
Ironman doesn't even always have closed
But
courses.
yeah, for instance, Boulder, where we were given like the shoulder of the road. I mean, there were cones, but you were on the shoulder of the road for a little while with cars to your left. So once again, kudos to Clash for absolutely doing a phenomenal job with that.
Coming off the bike, you're pretty much coming down the swim chute, come in where the swim exit or entrance into transition is. Hop off the bike, onto the run.
Onto the run. So the run is the same run from last year. They did not change that, which is good. There's nothing really wrong with it.
2 loops.
It's 2 loops. It's got a bunch of U-turns, and you are running on the track for a little bit of it. But they keep you contained onto I'm going to call it the Speedway property. So, I love that. It probably saves some money on police and whatnot as well. But not a lot of ice this year. I don't know.
It wasn't hot, though.
It wasn't as necessary. But I feel like that once again is not in their control, and they can't know that leading up to it. So
unless they were making more and more ice deliveries if it was hot, like if they had a cart going
By
around.
that.
I mean, that's the only thing I can think of. But yeah, I mean, I don't
felt
feel like it had plenty of aid stations.
Plenty of aid stations. The aid stations felt less organized this year. Maybe less volunteers.
I felt like we were more towards the back this year. I
Yeah.
think they were waiting on us to finish.
They were definitely waiting on us to finish. I had a tough day. So I think I just went. We decided that my nutrition, even though it's cooler, you should still be taking in salt and plenty of fluids. And I had dialed it back, worrying I was going to get too much. So, so yeah, go ahead and make sure you're taking plenty.
So it was a slower race this year than it was last year. I think probably slower for just about everybody.
Yeah, it'd have to be with that wind.
But so I wonder if maybe if you volunteered last year and you knew that you were able to get out of there at a certain time, and this year you're having to stay longer, maybe that
Could
I
be.
don't know, whatever it was. The volunteers were great.
Yeah, absolutely.
But by the time that we were coming around on the second lap, there weren't as many people out there for sure. I mean, some people finished behind us, but it wasn't. The majority of people finished in front of us for sure.
Yeah. So,
I mean,
other race stories?
Yeah, I mean, so we met Randy on the run and kind
Yeah.
of talked to him pretty much the whole run, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which was pretty cool. I mean, it's always nice to have somebody to talk to, and that gives you a little bit more motivation for you to run, and you know, for them to probably do a little bit better than they would too. I think Randy was probably holding back for us because he ended up going on at the end, and then saw us at the finish line. Not as many people talkative. I mean, when the wind is so bad and it's only an out and back, then you don't have as many people to talk to on the bike. Did you find anybody to talk to on the bike?
I talked to a girl from DC.
Okay.
She was doing it with her tri club. I asked why this one. She was like, "Oh, I thought we were doing an Olympic. I found out 2 weeks ago it was half distance." So, woo! Yeah, I think I saw her later with a helmet. So she did pretty well. So yeah,
so the helmet was the award if you did tops in your age group.
We've seen them from afar. We've
all
never touched
we've done is we've seen people carrying them around. We hadn't been there.
So yeah, not a lot of talkers this go round.
I mean, the finish line was a regular finish line. It had food, so they had food trucks. So you get through the finish line. They give you the medal. And this was this was the
cool medal.
Kind of the colors that
right, it's Miami colors is what I'd call that. I don't like neon green and pink.
like Miami Vice colors.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was.
So right,
that's
you
what the
look at-
T-shirt was last year.
Yeah, it was something like this, and this would have been a cool T-shirt if you had integrated the medal and the T-shirt together. Just throwing that out for you for free. Clash, you guys are welcome.
You get through the finish line, and they had. I mean, like I said, we were late. We were late to the party, and by the time we got through the finish line, there weren't.
They were doing
as,
awards.
Yeah, there weren't nearly as many people at the finish line cheering people on. And we got out, and then the immediate food right after you get out, there were some drinks and like packaged cereal bars or granola bars or whatever. But nobody was there. I mean, there were some chips, but and they had all that stuff out still, but there were no volunteers there handing that stuff out or anything, which was fine. We got to pick up whatever we wanted. And then you left that and you went to this like food truck area, and on your bib you had like a little thing that they tore off that said athlete food. And so you could just redeem it at any of the food trucks, or was there one in particular?
I used one. I didn't even go look at the other. But yeah, it was like empanadas, I think was the option, or ham and Swiss, ham and cheese, roast beef, and then I don't remember what the fourth thing was. Maybe just cheese of some type.
I mean, I wasn't terribly hungry, so I didn't get any anyway. But I mean, that's kind of a cool way you can choose which type of food. And since the food trucks were there, and there's not any. I mean, you're inside the speedway, so there's no restaurants there. So that gave the people, the spectators or whatever, something to be able to eat. Also, I mean, it wasn't free. If you were a spectator, you had to pay for it. But gave the food truck some money, and that was a different way of doing athlete food afterwards, which was kind of neat.
Yeah.
I mean, pick up the bike was pretty standard.
Yeah.
Like they were, like we said, they were doing awards by the time we finished up. So
they still had volunteers checking the bikes out.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they were.
Them,
yeah,
so,
they were being sure about that.
Yeah, you had plenty of safety, security for that stuff. So yeah, you got a rating for this race?
So I'm so bad about these ratings. The ratings are basically, would you do this race again? Right?
It's your rating system, and you can do whatever you would like.
It's our rating system, and I can't remember.
Well, it's our rating system, but we generally don't have the same rating ever. So I think we have two different matrices that they're going
You can't
through.
compare the ratings that we gave on several races ago to this one, because our brains
we just keep
are
making
fried,
it up. I'm going to compare this one, of course, against other races and to itself. To Daytona is really what I want to compare it to, because you have the same people, and it's a good race. It's a spectator-friendly race. But I think I'm going to give it a 5.5.
Okay.
I think it can be a great race. I think there's a lot that they could do to make this a better race. Going out to the Keys was cool. I didn't like all of the turns we had to do to get out there. I get that you need the distance, and I'm not disputing that at all. If there was another, way to do that better, I'd love to see it. Once again, we don't use the racetrack at Daytona. Those first couple of years it was like 2.5 loops, and I think a lot of people, I can only imagine the complaints that they got. Well, I can't count. And so you had to keep track of yourself, and of course if you don't do 2.5, you're disqualified. So I'm sure that there was a lot of angry comments on that, which is why it was discontinued. But you have a racetrack there, and I'd love to be able to bike on that thing more.
So to be fair, the pros use the racetrack.
For sure.
And
we
maybe,
run on the racetrack.
Maybe
so.
since they're pros, they're able to count better.
Too soon.
Too
soon.
Is that the deal? Anyway.
So yeah, it's a 5.5 for me. I think this could be a 6.5 race. It's never going to be the most beautiful. I mean, you're biking through mangroves, which is cool. It's not the most scenic thing in the world. But it's mangroves and it's cool. So you're either going to have flat and no scenery, or hills and scenery. So those two probably wash. But yeah, what do you got?
So the swim. There's nothing they can do about the swim. It's not my favorite swim. First of all, because it's 2 loops and they try to get everybody in the water right away, which means that the faster people are going to be swimming over the slower people, no matter what. The bike. The last year's bike was faster.
Yes.
By far. Faster. This year's bike, I think, was better. I think I like it. The only thing that I would change about that is there's no way that they could, I guess, because otherwise they wouldn't have all those turns in there. But if they could have made the out further, so that it was just an out and back without all of the extra turns.
I wondered if you could do that. We hit an intersection and turned around right before it, and I was wondering if that may just be a main thoroughfare and you may not be able to shut it down. You could just take a right and do some extra and come back, but yeah.
Whatever it was, I would like to see that on the bike. But the main thing that I think that would be the easiest thing for Clash to change is the swag. You've got to give away a hat. That's advertising.
I was thinking about it.
Okay, tell me about it.
You don't have to give away a hat.
You
I would love to see a hat, and I'm wearing I've turned it around, a competitor's hat right now. And so I would love to see a hat. But we got the towel in Panama that said finisher. Something like that. I feel like we talk about the pants.
The dude with the pajama pants. Best finisher item we've seen in a long time.
Super cool. So they were pajama pants that had finisher written on one leg, but the cloth, the fabric that they were made out of was like printed with Beaches to Battleship. So it's now Ironman Wilmington. But the old Beaches to Battleship, so it's got a battleship and the logo all over the pants. Super, super cool. So I would like to see thinking outside of the box like that. I would love to have a hat. Maybe you guys, Clash, could do visors, because Ironman does hats. Something like that, so that I could wear headwear that is not branded from another race. But
there's other ideas.
Yeah, the pajama pants were just really clever. I really like the bag is great for transition. That's the perfect size to bring all of your transition stuff. If you can't fit all of your transition stuff into this bag, wherever
you're bringing too much transition
you have
stuff.
too much stuff anyway. Don't worry.
My thing on the hat, though, is that it's advertisement for Clash.
Yeah.
You're only wearing those pajama pants either at home or to a race.
I'll give you that.
Which is cool if you're advertising at a race. You do get the advertisement for a race and you're hitting your target market. But if you're wanting to build your brand nationally, internationally, whatever, the hat, people wear those hats on a run or even out. I've seen people wearing, finisher hats out in regular everyday life,
and it absolutely gives us something to talk about, right? Hey, I remember that race. When'd you do it?
And not just something that says Clash, but something that says Clash Miami or Clash Daytona or whatever, and possibly even the year, because when you have a year on there, and you can be like, oh yeah, I was there that year. Do you remember the wind that year? I mean, like because there's something different every year that happens. So I'd like to see that. The T-shirt. I mean, I love this material. It's soft cotton. I mean, I used to get on to, I mean, at the beginning of these videos, we'd get on to people if they had these types of shirts because we thought that every race should give out a technical shirt. Well, I mean, you do 1 million races in a year, and you end up with 1 million technical T-shirts.
We have a whole closet full of technical shirts.
I don't so much mind the cotton anymore, but you could do something a little bit better than this design on the T-shirt. So I don't mind the material, just a little bit more, you know, on the design of the T-shirt. Is there anything else? The run I think is fine. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, well, there's nothing I would change about with the run. It's really good.
I don't mind U-turns on runs anymore because you get to see people, you know, both ways. And if you talk to somebody and you pass them or they pass you, then you can kind of give them some encouragement on the other side. If you're in competition, I mean, and you want to see how far you are ahead or behind somebody, you can do that too. So on the run, I've decided I don't mind U-turns so much. Just the bike had those extra turns that I'd like to see get rid of. So, I mean, I'm with you on the 5.5. I mean, you know, maybe a 5 3/4 or so, because I mean, they really do put on a good race.
It's a really good race, and I'd absolutely recommend it. And if I'm arguing value, especially with the $170 price mark, it's a 7 on value.
Yeah.
Absolutely recommend the race. I mean, you know, I feel like we're a bit snobbish now. Because I don't know what we gave this thing last year. I would suspect a higher rating. Well, and certainly I PR.
But you
so
PR'd the race last year too. So.
we might have felt better going into it. But you know, it's interesting. I feel like as we have seen, it's the
more
same.
And more races.
More races. We've seen more and more things done different ways. And so you know, what I like is Clash has continued to change. Every time we do a Clash race, something has changed for the better, or you know, in the case
they're trying something new.
They're trying something. They're trying to better themselves. And you know, when you swing, you don't always hit the ball. I don't know that they fully connected on this one with the bike change, but I think that they have some excellent ideas, and I can see, you know, there's gold in there, and so you know, I love to see that they are trying to make it, you know, athlete friendly, make it, you know, as good a race as it can be, and not, you know, hey man, we're here, this is what we do, that's it. So yeah, I
highly recommend the race.
I
it's
do
an
it
early
in a heartbeat.
season race. You know.
I'm not going to call it. I had a hard time with it, but I don't think that was because of the race. I think that was because of the stuff I did. So it's a really good, if you're, you know, I don't want to call it a shakeout race, but you know, kind of tune-up race, see where you're at, and I think there's value in that, and certainly Miami's always fun. So, you got anything else?
No, I guess stay tuned for our Australia. We just
We're
got
in
here
Australia.
just yesterday. So.
They let us in. Yeah. I don't know what they were thinking. So stay tuned for our next video, or watch the news. Maybe 2 American idiots get arrested in Australia. Either way, you're going to hear from us again. Thanks so much for watching.